Welcome, everybody, to Bring It to the Table. This is a little web series that I've started where I bring on guests and we talk about what has made them what they are today. We focus on the person, the passion, the perseverance, and the partnerships that got them to where they are today. So I hope you're looking forward to this, and let's get to it. Today I'm joined by Mr. Robert Fleming. Robert, first of all, thank you for being here.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here. Like I said, we go pretty far ways back, and I really like dealing and working with you and David with Mosley football and other activities. So it's an honor to be here. I appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, you're somebody who, number one, you've got a pretty big footprint in this town, but you've also had a pretty major impact on my life in a very short time. Just to give a little bit of backstory on our history, you guys are obviously very involved with Mosley football. You and Leanne is the president of the Touchdown. I don't know why I'm lost for words. Right, Leanne is the president of the Touchdown Club, and of course you are an attorney here locally with Walborski Bradley Fleming. We met you guys back in, I think, 2022 with our first season of Mosley. And then I had my accident in December of 2023, and you represented me in that. And, it's kind of, I feel like it's hard sometimes, and I am going to ask you about this at some point when you represent somebody because I'm a public adjuster, so yeah. It's kind of I kind of feel that now a little bit more. Like I would never want to represent somebody I know. So,
it certainly adds to the pressure I put on myself. I'm already my expectations for my performance are already pretty high, but when you represent somebody that you definitely don't want to let that person down.
Yeah, but you were there for me in that time. But the biggest thing, and I don't know if I've ever said this to you, so I want to say it now, and hate to get sappy 30 seconds into this thing, but I had my injury in September of 2024, and I had just lost my job. It was like probably bottom of the barrel. You stepped in and filled in for me for a couple games with Mosley, and I think it was 3 games, as a matter of fact, because I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't go anywhere, and you allowed them to still pay me. And I got to tell you, man, if that doesn't happen, my family doesn't make it through that time. So, thank you for that.
I was honored to be able to help you out. Like I said, I think very highly of you and David, and not just colleagues, but a friendship. And I was more than happy to help out.
I appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure I got that out at some point, and better to do it in the beginning so that people know kind of like what our relationship is, and can get a better understanding of that. So, Robert, you're an attorney, but more importantly, you're a husband. You're a father, but before all that, you were a child. Yep. You born and raised here in Panama City.
I was. Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and your parents.
So there's no perfect family, but I felt like we were very blessed, my brothers and I. So I was the oldest of 3. My middle brother's Ryan, and youngest brother is Reed. And so there were 3 brothers in 4 years. I was born in 78. Ryan in 79 and Reed in 81. And so, our parents, my mom and dad, they were always present. They were always around. My mom, by and large, didn't work outside of the home. She was a teacher for a little while in Bay District schools, but most of the time whenever we were young, she was there, which, I think is comforting for kids. There's security knowing that the parents are around. And also as you get older, it helps keep you on the straight and narrow path by and large, because somebody's watching you. And Dad, I think he was a guy that played golf and did things before we were born, but once we were born, he cut that stuff off. And so if he wasn't at work, he was at home, and he was kind of the dad that would, go out in the alley, and whenever it was baseball season, he would throw the baseball with us and throw the football with us, and go up to Cherry Street Elementary, which was near where we lived, and we'd go and run routes and shoot baskets. And he was just, that was is the dad that he is. And Mom, we'd always have dinner on the table whenever we would get home. So, I mean, it really was a very special home. to grow up in, and it was a very competitive home whenever it was. And we were also fortunate to the neighborhood that we lived in. We grew up, there were a bunch of kids our age. So whenever it was basketball season, there was basketball being played at somebody's house, football season, football being played. And also, we went to church every Sunday. They instilled in us the importance of our faith early on, which I think is incredibly important. So it was one of those situations where, and I could talk about that subject for 30 minutes, but to short circuit that, it was just very blessed to grow up in the household that I grew up in. Very involved parents.
What's the age gap with you guys? You may have said this there, but you Ryan and Reed, what's the...
It's really close, which I think helped us in a lot of ways. It created some competitiveness between us. But so I was born in 78. Ryan was born in 79. So he was only 1 year behind me in school, and which was kind of cool because we got to play sports together a lot on the same teams. And then Reed was born 2 years after Ryan in 1981. So
it was a fun time to be a Fleming, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was. And it was a fun time to be, Florida Gator fan whenever we were growing up, Dallas Cowboy fan in the 90s, and going to Rutherford High School in the 90s, because all of those football programs kind of, their trajectory was upward, right around that time period. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. We played baseball down at Sudeth Park. We played basketball. I grew up
playing there too.
Yeah, we played basketball at the boys' club, and and then football at Jinx Middle School and at Rutherford. So it was a lot of fun having just three boys. Though with those close ages, we always were doing the same thing at all times. We were always at the ball field. We were, there wasn't any, oh, this kid's going to go do that and this kid's going to go do something else. We were always doing the same thing. And we went out to Shell Island. We skied. We on the weekends, we went down to Gainesville to watch Gator games. So we were always doing stuff together. It was rarely that we were not together as a family.
So you grew up in the Cove, I'm guessing.
Correct.
When you said Cherry Street Elementary, now you say Sudeth.
That's right.
Have you been to Sudeth Park recently, by the way?
Yeah, they redid it.
It looks beautiful now.
Yeah, it does. They actually, my Coast Shopping Center was who we all played for. Joe Prevost was a icon down there at Sudeth Park, and he was our coach. And so whenever they had his celebration of life, a bunch of people got together at Sudeth Park, and
nice.
And I was able to see it then. But yeah, it's beautiful down there.
Yeah, I went down there recently. My dad grew up in the same area, so
okay.
I'm sure you spent some Saturdays at Jimmy's Shrimp Box, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Jimmy's?
Yeah. And we went there all the time.
Oh, awesome.
It was funny, whenever we would go down there, Mom and Dad would get the shrimp boxes, we'd get a hamburger. And whenever we were little kids, but that's the way, way it's supposed to work. So
yeah, I think that's natural order.
That's right.
I wish I could get my kids to eat burgers, man. They're just French fry boys, chicken tenders. So you went to Rutherford High School, graduated with what I have as an IB diploma.
Correct.
What is an IB diploma?
So at the time, it's the International Baccalaureate program, and so they still have the IB program there. But when I was in high school coming up, there was no ACE program at Bay. There was no MAPS program at Mosley. That was the only program that was set aside for those that sought to be challenged academically. And so it's an international program in which you have to take certain courses, and then you have to test at the end of those courses at the end of your career in high school in order to see, almost like AP tests, to see if you were able to get college credit for a lot of those courses. So that's what it was. And it was, I was fortunate enough to get an IB diploma, probably by the skin of my teeth, in Spanish. I was not the best in Spanish, but I was able to get the IB diploma in this. So I thought that was something, it took a lot of work. And so I was thankful for that.
Could you imagine looking back now and thinking Spanish may have cost you that?
Yeah, well, I know. Well, and it, in hindsight 2020, I wish I would have stuck with it. I did not, and so I'm not
It's Bente Pinte.
Yeah, I'm not very good in Spanish right now, and but it was something that I was able to do in high school at that time.
That's awesome. So you were Rutherford won the state championship. Was it 93 or 90?
So Rutherford went to 2 state championship games whenever Coach Harden was there, and one was in the 96 football season, and one was the 99 football season.
99 was when they won with Witherspoon.
Well, so
right?
they never won a state championship.
Okay.
So the only state championship I think that's been won in Bay County was Bay High in the mid to late 70s. I think it might have been 76. But, in fact, Jamie Holzenbach's dad played on that Bay High football team.
Wow.
So, yeah, so small world. But so we, Rutherford in 96 went to play. That was Spoon's senior year, Will Witherspoon's senior year, played St. Thomas Aquinas, who's a juggernaut, and not just in Florida, but nationally. Yeah. And they lost in a relatively close game. There was a time when I thought I was at the game. Actually, I'd come home from school to watch the game, and I thought that they were going to prevail. And then Lakeland, they played in 99, and that was Reed, my younger brother's senior year. Really good Rutherford football team, but they Lakeland got on a roll, and that one was not relatively close, unfortunately. So they could Rutherford could not protect the quarterback that game. But it was really, Rutherford at that time. Harden came on in 1990. At the time that he did, Rutherford had the longest losing streak in the state for high school football. Jeez. And, and it was a very quick turnaround. Almost every year made the playoffs, made Final Fours, made 2, like I said, state championship games against 2 perennial powers in the state of Florida. And I'm very proud of what, we were able to accomplish during that time. And I look at, and that's the only comparison I have, my career, and I look at what Mosley is building under Coach Whidden, and I see a lot of the same parallels. I really like what I see there.
So, we are going to talk a little bit of Mosley at the end of this, by the way. We have to talk a little bit of Mosley because, we have Fleming's facts before every game, man.
There you go. I love talking Mosley football.
It's always the best. It's like we always say, like, that's like the best part of it. Like, I never have keys to the game written down. We just bring you up. We ask a few questions. I'm like, yep, got them.
Well, I enjoy getting up there and visiting with you guys.
It's a heck of a time. So you were there when that happened. Could be an off-air conversation. You know Dennis Barfield at all?
I recognize that name.
My cousin. He also went to Rutherford during that time.
Yeah, I recognize that name.
I believe he played on that team.
But I was not on the. So Spoon was 2 years behind me. So I was there at Rutherford from 92, and I graduated in 96. So, in fact, I got my year wrong. 97 was the year that they were in the state championship game.
That's why I was trying to draw the connection here. I'm like, Robert Fleming didn't get held back, right? No.
Yeah, no. I was 92 to 96 at Rutherford, and my last football season was 95.
So, how'd you end up at Duke?
So, I started as that's what I tell kids at Mosley now. When you have 150 players in the program, a program that I think is really, really strong, unless you're really an elite player, you're probably going to need a year or two to mature before you work your way into the starting lineup. And I was no different. I didn't start at Rutherford until I was a junior. Started at tight end, and I had a good junior year and started getting some looks at some, by some colleges and sending some letters. And, you get a lot of letters, and some of them are serious and some of them aren't. And, Coach Harden, who was the head coach at Rutherford at the time, had a lot of good relationships. He was at Lincoln before Rutherford. Lincoln, which is a kind of a perennial powerhouse in
the schedule
Florida
this
high
year.
School. Yeah, they are, and that Mosley's played them quite a bit. Well, whenever he was at Lincoln, he had a lot of guys come through that went on to play college, one of which was Kevin Carter, who was an All-American defensive end at Florida, and then played in the league forever. And so whenever you have guys like that, it's my understanding that high school coaches build relationships with college coaches. And I think if you are credible, that the college coaches are going to take your word and say, this guy's a player. They watch film. They come and see you practice in spring. Well, I had I think a good junior year, and we ran a wing tee at the time, so heavy run game. So caught some passes, but nothing like you see these days as far as like an Adam Land or a Fletcher Taylor at Mosley this last year. But caught some passes, caught a few in a big game we played that year. We played Bay High, and had a really good game blocking. It was the last game of the season. Bay High was number 1 in the state. Bay High was really good in the early 90s as well. And just really finished the year strong, had some good games in the playoffs, and just got a letter from the head coach at Duke that summer and said, hey, I've been talking to your head coach, Steve Harden, and we've watched film, and we'd like to offer you a football scholarship. And I was excited because, I was in the IB program at Rutherford. Academics were important to me, and I liked playing football, and I wanted to go to somewhere that was kind of a combination of the two. And, it's funny that one of the first things I thought about whenever I read the letter was, I didn't even think about Duke having a football team, because, you hear about Duke basketball. I'd always followed Duke basketball. It was, not too long after, the Bobby Hurley, Christian Laettner, Grant Hill years for the basketball team. And so I was intrigued, certainly interested, went up there. That was the summer before my senior year, went up there to Durham for an unofficial visit, met the coaching staff, met, some of the coaches that I would be playing for as a tight end, and they said, look, if you get injured, we'll honor that scholarship, and we'll get you, rehab you, that sort of thing. And so it was exciting. The only other team I was interested in beyond a Duke would have been a University of Florida. Spurrier was there at the time, and my dad graduated from Florida. My granddad went to Florida before he was drafted into World War II. And so my dad grew up going to Florida Gator games, and we did the same. And, the Steve Harden, talked to me about it and said, any other schools you'd be interested in? And I said, just Florida. He called them, and they said, he's a good player. We'd like to look at him, but we're not offering at this time. And so that kind of made the decision easy. And so I committed to Duke, and it was a great opportunity, and I was thankful for it.
No transfer portal back then.
No, it really is crazy. We talk about that now. And I had a couple of guys that whenever I was up at Duke that transferred, but it really was less than so I played 5 seasons. I got redshirted. There were probably less than 5 guys that I can think of that transferred whenever I was at Duke. It was just unheard of, one of which, because you lost a year of eligibility, you had to sit out a year whenever you transferred. And so you just really didn't see it. And one of the guys I can think of that transferred was one of our starting inside linebackers, and his dad, a great football player, good coach, but there were some coaching changes one year. His dad got let go. And that's kind of awkward playing for the head coach that lets your dad go. So he transferred. But most of the time, the guys that you came in with, unless they dropped out of school, and there were some of those guys that did that just didn't make it because they didn't want to play football anymore, or grades, they couldn't hack it. Most of those guys were guys that you were going to graduate with.
3 or 4 years, you were going to know them, you were going to build a relationship, and then the game has just changed.
Oh, it's changed tremendously, and I talk to my kids about it. As far as talking about playing college ball, and it was a business then. As far as coaches, you knew coaches, unless you were a Bobby Bowden or a Steve Spurrier, there's going to be a lot of turnover. There's going to be a lot of movement. but it's nowhere near what it is now as far as players are concerned. And I think at the time there were guys that were on scholarships. Scholarships are year to year, but there were guys that I knew that were told, hey, you're graduating this year, you need to just go ahead and graduate. We're not bringing you back that had been redshirted. So they had another year of eligibility, but they weren't being brought back.
Right.
But that was not the norm. Whereas I get the sense now these days where it's truly year to year. And if you're not hacking it, you're going to, in some programs, you're going to be told, hey, you need to go into the portal and look for other opportunities.
Was law your original plan at Duke, or did you have something else in mind?
Yeah, so I've always been somebody that likes history, politics, government, and the Constitution. And so to me, and I'm not a huge fan of blood, and so, I didn't want sick people and people nauseated. So medicine was not something I saw myself going into, and law seemed to be a nice mix of those things that I liked to do. And so I don't know when exactly, but it was probably late high school, early college that I decided this is something that I want to do. And so whenever I was at Duke, you can basically major in almost anything and go to law school. And so I majored in history and minored in criminology, thinking I was going to be a criminal prosecutor whenever I actually wound up practicing. And so I did that. And so that was kind of always my plan because of just those things that I was interested in. And frankly, it was a way that I could, if successful, make a sufficient amount of money that I wanted, if my wife was so inclined, to stay home if she wanted to do that and be able to. And so I wanted to be able to facilitate that for her because that was how we grew up as kids. And so I wanted to be able to have that if possible.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Leanne right there. That was kind of what we were going to get into next. Because we have to talk about...
Nice transition.
Yeah, we have to talk about the partnerships, right, before we get into the law stuff.
Yeah.
So meeting Leanne, when was that? How did you know?
So it's funny, and this could be another one of those 30-minute conversations probably, but...
She would love it.
Yeah, no.
She's already mad at me for not bringing her in here. I got to get her here one night.
She. Whenever I told her that we were going to have this conversation, she's like, "What? Why not me?" So she's
because we're PG
but she's
rated.
just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, no,
she's just giving you a hard time.
I had to tell her because we're PG. We family show.
That's right.
Can't bring Leanne Fleming in here.
That's right. So we actually met. She went to Everett. I went to Jinx. So we didn't know each other until high school. She went to Rutherford. I went to Rutherford. Whenever you're in IB, they encourage you because it's not like AP where you select this course I'm going to take and this course I'm not going to take AP. It's like every course you take has to be IB. So electives, they encouraged you to take personal fitness, which was a graduation prerequisite, and some other course. It might have been football for me, but they encourage you to take personal fitness before your ninth grade year, the summer before your ninth grade year. And so a bunch of incoming freshmen were in that class. Leanne was one of those freshmen. And I just remember seeing her and thinking, who's that? She's really, really pretty. And I didn't know her. And so then we get into the ninth grade and she's in a lot of my classes. And in fact, I had really, really short hair at the time, and so in geometry,
is it long now?
Well, it's not like it's long now, right. But it was. I don't know. It looked like I just joined the Marine Corps or something in high school. So yeah, very buzzed, like a very short, very like prickly on the side, very very short on the top, and so Leanne was in geometry class with me. She sat behind me, and some days would be just like, rubber hand on the back of my head, and which would of course make me blush. And so we knew one another just being in classes together. We never like hung out or in any significant amount in high school. And then after freshman, sophomore year, we were taking different classes, hanging out in different groups. So we knew one another. And I'm trying to pick and choose what I need to say and what I don't need to say. Because, and also it's one of those things where there's just a lot of details. So we graduate, kind of lose track with one another. Her older brother, she's the fifth of six. Her older brother is a financial advisor with my dad. Fast forward a little bit. Her brother says to her one day, "Hey, you really need to, date one of those Fleming boys." He doesn't say Robert. He just says one of the Fleming boys, which I still give him a hard time about. But, and then around the same time, my mom, she runs into Leanne and they have a conversation, and she calls me up at Duke, and I think I'm a redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior, something like that. She says, "Robert, I found the girl for you." I'm thinking, this is odd. And she said, "It's Leanne Platt." And I'm like, I don't know about that, Mom, but it is interesting. And, she said, "Well, and here's all the reasons." And she loves family and she wants to be around her nephews. And so she goes on and on. It's like, "Okay, Mom. All right. Well, I haven't seen her in 3 years or so." And so then I graduate, come back home to take the LSAT, get ready for law school, do applications. A football career is over. And a friend of ours invites me to lunch, and she's at that same lunch. And we just really hit it off. We're sitting across the table from one another, and it was almost like nobody else was in, there were probably 7, 8 people there, and it was just me and her. And so the lunch ends, and kind of the plan is to the plan is to the mutual friend of ours is going to call her that night, and we're all going to hang out together. Well, I think the mutual friend of ours also had a long time crush on Leanne and saw how well we hit it off. And so he and I are hanging out that night, and he says, and I said, "Hey, are we going to call Leanne?" Thinking, I'd like to continue our conversation. He's like, "Nah, we're not going to call her."
So no.
And, so he had, I didn't know any contact information for Leanne or anything like that. And, so, there's the movie Swingers where the rule is you're supposed to wait 48 hours before you make the phone call.
Yeah.
Well, in true Leanne fashion, she's very bold. She, the next day she calls me and she says, "Hey, why didn't you guys call me last night?" I was like, "Well, we were just doing stuff and I don't know." And, so she's like, "Well, what are you doing tonight?" And wow. So we go out that night, and, that was kind of the rest is history, so to speak. That was St. Patrick's Day of 2001. And by February of 2002, we were married. So that's cool. Yeah. So it was, very interesting the way it all played out.
Drawing the connection here, 2002. I feel like that's when maybe Isaac was starting to come into the picture.
Yeah. So we, it was one of those things where I got admitted into law school, and we go to Florida State College of Law. We moved to Tallahassee.
Which we're coming back to Florida State, by the way.
Oh yeah,
because you're a Seminole.
Yeah. I don't claim it very often, but yeah. No, it's a great place to go to law school too. I tell people that whenever they're thinking about law schools, but
not to play football.
Well, I mean, maybe who knows?
We'll see. We'll see.
But we moved over there, and we're married, and Leanne's starting to think, "Oh my goodness, law school is 3 years." So we contemplate me just joining the military as an officer. And her brother talks to me. He retired as a colonel in the Air Force. And he's like, if you want to stay around the Panhandle, if you want to be around your family, you probably don't need to join the military because they're going to move you all over the place. And so we debate it for a while. So I stay and decide to go to law school. And, Leanne's like, sometimes it takes a long time for people to get pregnant. So maybe we should not try to not have kids, but, see what happens. And so, of course, Isaac, the next month she's pregnant with Isaac. And so we have Isaac like the week before finals in law school. So it was a very busy time period for us that first year.
So, like I said, we're going to come back to Florida State, but since we talked about Isaac, let's talk about all the kids.
Okay.
We've got Isaac, we've got Riley, we've got Wyatt, we've got Mason, Molly, and Abram. That's right. And then, of course, you have a granddaughter, Nora. And you told me today in the driveway you have another grandbaby on the way.
Yes, and Callie, who is, I guess technically you call somebody, Callie daughter-in-law, but she is very much my daughter. I love her so much, and she is very, I'm so proud of her. And it's actually her birthday today.
Oh, so, well, happy birthday, Callie.
Happy birthday, Callie. That's right. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, I know if you need me to name them off, we can, but I want you to spend a minute talking about each one and just kind of, because obviously Isaac made you a father. Riley made you a dad.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There's a big difference there.
That's
and
right.
Then of course Wyatt, all-star linebacker. it's just so if you don't mind, just spend a moment, tell me about kind of maybe each kid.
Yeah. So I'm very proud of all of them. I just, in globally, I've always wanted to be a dad. Always, Leanne and I talked about that in advance, which I think is important to do. She came from a big family. I, wanted to have a lot of kids. At one point in time, I wanted to have 10 children, and that fluctuated with the number of kids that we have. It's like, okay, I want 10 kids, and then you have one kid, and it's like, okay, I want one kid.
It's crazy to think you got 60% of the way there.
But no, we and Leanne's a great mom too, so you have to have a great partner in that. But Isaac, very intellectual, but also he played football for North Bay. Played linebacker. He played a lot on varsity his freshman year and sophomore year under Coach Siegel. Sophomore year, he ruptured a kidney, and that ended his playing career. But we're just thankful that he's healthy, and he's just finished the nursing program at Gulf Coast. He's going to be an RN, and I think ultimately go to nurse anesthesia. So very bright. His wife Callie. Just finished also as an RN, and they're both working at Gulf Coast, both doing really well. Super proud of them because they got married at a young age, and so we're like, there's no right or wrong time to get married, but if you're married coming right out of high school, you're going to have to work really hard and make good decisions, and you're going to have to sacrifice, and they've done that, and now they have Nora, which is just like a tremendous blessing. They moved into our neighborhood, so we're excited to be right down the street from them, and they do have now a little boy coming at the beginning of September. So we can't get enough of being around the grandchildren. It's just people tell you that how exciting it is to have grandchildren, but it's hard to articulate it without having experienced it, because it's almost like whenever you're young and you're parenting, it's a little bit of trial and error. There's some things and some things you learn. And so I like the fact it's kind of that way also whenever you have a lot of kids. So I feel like the first three, Isaac, Riley, and Wyatt, we were kind of learning on the job. Mason, Molly, and Abram, we're kind of, I think, better parents than we were with the first three. And certainly with Nora, that's the same way. You get to kind of, first off, the pressure's not on you as a grandparent.
Yeah, right.
It's on the mom and dad, but it's also one of those things you get another opportunity to take care of a young child, a young grandchild, and so that's really exciting for us. Riley, again, really proud of all of our children. She just got accepted into the Gulf Coast State College nursing program. She's working at Ferrucci. and we're getting good reviews from the folks there about the work that she's doing. So Isaac's 22, 23.
So it's 23 here.
Okay, all right. So, and I think that's right. Riley is 20, 21.
It says 20 here, but
Okay, 20. And
these are, for full disclosure, these are his notes. I just copy and paste them, so he knows.
yeah, I hope I did the math there instead of trying to do it in my head here.
I love that you did it yourself. I got the lawyer to run into a trap here.
Yeah, I did. I did it. I filled out all the forms myself. So really proud of her. She, she was a basketball player, really good basketball, really good shooter.
Yeah, I saw her at the Mosley scrimmage. I believe she was she there with you guys? Was it Riley?
I'm sure.
I believe she was at the scrimmage at Tommy Oliver. Yeah, the spring game. That was it.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's tall.
Yeah,
Not
she's
surprising,
she's
but
about 5'11".
She's tall for a woman. Yeah.
Yeah. And Isaac's about 5'11 and a half. Riley's 5'11, and which is, Wyatt's always like, this waist,
we always said, man,
the height issue, but no, she, again, she's doing really well on a good path. Really happy for her. She's threatened with moving out, and anytime, not threatened, but just talked about moving out. And anytime you're a daddy and your little girl talks about moving out, you're like, no, you can stay a little bit longer. Let's finish with school, and then you can move out. So, and then Wyatt, he just graduated from Mosley. Really proud of the job he did academically and athletically. Football wise, 2-year captain at Mosley. Started for 3 years, which is, I think, impressive for a program like Mosley. There aren't many people, I think, that get an opportunity to do that. Led the team in tackles 2 years, and just really, I felt like was a good leader and played the game the right way. An encourager, good attitude, always, things that you can control were attitude and effort, and I think he maxed out those things. And then, whether it was at practice, he would go full speed. On the off season, he worked really hard. And one of the best compliments, I got from him or about him was Coach Whidden and Wyatt and I were talking. And Wyatt, he fortunately made it through the seasons without a major injury, missing a lot of games. But there were a couple of spring balls where he, would get banged up. He'd break a wrist or a thumb or and Coach Whidden was like, and Coach Whidden, is all about effort and, tenaciousness and getting after it. And he said, why, you play every practice like you're at Friday night out under the lights, just, reining in just a little bit, and that might help you as far as longevity is concerned. So anytime you want a coach to be saying, whoa, instead of giddy up, as far as players is concerned. And so that was kind of Wyatt. And now he's talking about going to maybe pre-med. And I think he's going to try to start working at Gulf Coast to get a little bit of experience medical-wise to see if that's truly what he wants to do before he starts spending a lot of time on that. And then Mason, he's going to be a sophomore.
I just want one thing about Wyatt that I love, because I also had the pleasure of watching him the last 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. The kid has no quit, man. And I assume he got that from his parents. But the kid, every single play, and I think Coach Whidden talked about this when I had him in here. He wants the guys that he would rather have a guy with a high football IQ that might run like a 4.7, 4.8 than have the guy with a low football IQ that runs a 4.2, 4.3, 40. Yeah. And Wyatt was that guy, dude. It was like you could just watch him, and even if he didn't make the play, like that number 11 was right there. And it was a pleasure watching him play ball over the last couple of years.
Thank you. Yeah, we, Mama and Daddy, we enjoyed watching them play, and kind of on that football IQ. Talking to some of the coaching staff, we talk, Wyatt, whenever he was growing up, we would talk about things like, stance, the offensive lineman stance, the offensive lineman splits, if they're heavy, look run, if they're light, look pull or pass pro, and just little things like that he took to heart and watched in film. And so, whenever he was at practice, he could, call out, different plays that the offense, would be running. And I think that gives you a distinct advantage on defense when you kind of can narrow down, okay, the likely plays coming out of this formation with the offensive line set the way they are is a big advantage for the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now Mason, because I'm sure I'll be calling his games next.
Yeah. So he, he's taller. He's about 6'1.5", 6'2". He's about up to 215 right now. They moved him to offensive tackle in the spring. I think it's a good fit for him. He, to his credit, he's working really hard in the weight room. He's typically been a tight end outside linebacker guy, but there's a lot of depth at tight end right now. And so they moved him to offensive tackle. I think he's going to be, if he works hard, maybe a 6-quarter guy where he gets to, play JV Green, but also maybe, work at, on varsity a little bit. So, but he's doing well. He's doing everything that, we've asked him to do as far as work, and putting on weight for the offensive line. And, what I tell all of my children is, go and enjoy the process, go and enjoy being a high school football player, enjoy being out there with your buddies, because it ends really quickly. It's over really fast. And if something happens at the next level, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. And so right now we're just telling Mason, hey, work hard every day, get out there and make the most of it. And he's doing that so far. What becomes of it's going to be kind of up to him, but he's doing the right things, the things that he needs to do to be a contributor in Mosley football program. And he's doing well in school, which again is in my book the most important thing. Football's great, and I think it's good for young men to play football because I think it helps build perseverance and work ethic, gets them off the couch, learn how to take constructive criticism. Maybe don't take the yelling and take the instruction, because there's going to be and also dealing with failure. There's going to be failure, and there's going to be difficult times where you're going to have to get up and dust yourself off and go back to it and not quit. And so I think that it teaches a lot of young men a lot of things for life, whether they're going to go on and play football or job or marriage or military or fatherhood, a lot of things that can influence you and help you in all of those things. So he's doing well. Molly, she's going to be in the 8th grade next year. She's 13, I think. Did I get it right?
Yeah, one for 5, boy.
She's 13, and she's my artist. She loves writing, reading, drawing, and right now theater is her thing. Every time she's in my car, it's Hamilton on repeat.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And
at least it's a good one.
Yeah, before long I'll have all the songs memorized, and we're actually planning a potential trip to go watch it. Take her up there to New York to watch it,
awesome.
which would be really cool. And so she, she's making good decisions. She's now starting to ask for a phone, which I'm very much a screen hater. Because I view it as you just have to be really careful with kids. I wouldn't just let anybody knock on our front door and walk in.
Yeah.
And whenever you give kids phones, it's as if you're opening up the world to them. And so you have to be very careful about what they're exposed to as a parent. And that's something I think our generation of parents have to deal with that previous generations did not. And I think we're the guinea pigs. And so, but she's been very patient. She's, going into the 8th grade. A lot of her friends have had phones for a long time. And so, but she's, again, making good grades, staying out of trouble, making good decisions, not trying to buck mama and daddy. And she's, like I said, doing theater. She has, in fact, she's going to be in Aladdin Junior this Saturday. So
nice.
Really, really proud of her. She's doing great. And then Abram is the youngest. He's 12. He's going to be in the 6th grade next year. So all of my kids are out of elementary school now, which kind of sad. Yeah, is that right? 12?
I have 11. But
11. God, oh, jeez. Okay. So 1 out of 6. But hey, so when you have 6 children, you can say, what is it? Close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and children's ages whenever you have 6. We'll amend that rule.
There's the attorney twist. There you go. I also think you got Mason right. So 2 for 6.
Okay, there you go.
Good batting average.
You're
getting a job in the big leagues.
There you go. Tony Gwynn lived off of that.
Yeah. So that's 300. Yeah.
There you go. And so he's doing weightlifting right now. He loves watching football. I don't think he's going to play football in the 6th grade, just because of the differential in maturity between 8th graders and 6th graders. Me and my brothers coming up in middle school, we didn't play football until 7th grade. You couldn't play in middle school until the 7th grade. So I think that still gives him plenty of time if he wants to play, starting in the 7th grade. So right now he's working with Aaron Paley on weightlifting and learning clean and jerk and snatch, and he's working with Mason a little bit and me doing bench press and some upper body stuff at home. So we're going to just give him a year of training, and he's very much like his older brother. He's very academically inclined, makes good grades. You can ask him any presidential trivia you can come up with, and he probably knows the answer, including who was the 10th president of the United States. He'll tell you the 12th. He loves presidential facts and learning about the president. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So that's all the kids. And then Nora, grandbaby, is 1.5. And
there's no decimals, so you're good on 1.
And brilliant.
You'll know the grandbaby's age. You'll always know that one.
That's right. At least until I hope to have a lot of grandchildren, so then I might have the same problem one of these days. So.
You're going to get your 10.
I hope so. I want to have the family picture with everybody around the table with me and Leanne as old grandparents with, the kids and the grandkids are on the table. So
that's awesome.
One day, hopefully.
You're getting there.
Yeah.
You are getting there, and you've raised a bunch of good ones. Well, we're going to get into your time in law school, but I'm going to give you a chance to sip your water, and I'm going to promote an event we got coming up here locally. This is an event that I just kind of started shooting from the hip. Danny, if you don't mind popping that flyer for me, thank you. First of all, shout out to Danielle for being here tonight and running the board op for me, running the cameras. So thank you for that. Man Up. This is a Men's Mental Health Awareness Month meeting that we're having Saturday, June 27th from 6 to 9 p.m. This will be at Palo Alto Church of Christ. A few months ago, I had a 4-hour podcasting session with some buddies of mine, and I just walked out of it feeling better than I ever have before. And it got me thinking that maybe more guys need that. So on June 27th, we're going to have a meetup. This is a judgment-free zone. We're going to have a couple guest speakers, myself included, and then we're going to kind of break into small groups, eat some dinner, and then we're going to play some cornhole and just hang out, man. And so if you're somebody that could benefit from this event, please come out. We will have an event link in the comments or in the description of this video. If you or somebody you know could use an event like this, it's just a night out. Just come hang out, man. We hope to see you there.
That's a great event. I think one thing I've read about in our society today is men not having other men in their lives in a meaningful way. So I'm glad you guys are doing that.
I'm not here without some of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I had a brief stint in my life where, like, I think a lot of guys go through this, where it's like, I didn't want to hear anything from my dad. I didn't want to hear anything from my stepdad. And I kind of shut that out. And if it wouldn't have been for some positive male influences that stepped into my life at the time, I am probably not here today.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. We all have those that thankfully that contributed to where we are today. There's no doubt about it.
There's just something healing about hanging out with your boys, and if you're a beer drinker, cracking a few, kicking back. If not, just throwing the football, playing a little golf. Man, it's healing. The day we did the scramble, man, I was terrible. But
are you talking about the golf
scramble
tournament?
Yeah.
I was you. There's terrible, and then there's me. It was. Not only that, but I got injured during it. So, but I did get to hang out with a buddy of mine. JP Holsenbach was in our group, and Trip Moore, guys that I think very highly of.
Yeah.
And so that was the best, the high part. The low part was the actual golf game itself and my injury. So
what'd you injure out there? Shoulder?
Have you not heard this?
No.
Are you walking me into this embarrassing story?
Okay, I somewhat feel like I might remember now, but if you don't want to tell it, you don't have to.
No. I can tell you. This will just show you that I'm just being completely open book with you on your podcast. I'm terrible. I don't play golf. It's like I'm not a terrible golfer. I'm not a golfer. And so it's just I'm not good. But a buddy of mine whose friend is also on the team said, hey, let's just do it. And, we'll just ride around and it'll be fun. We'll ride it on the golf cart. We'll just catch up and all that stuff. And after he beat me into submission for weeks, I said, okay, fine, we'll do it. And, I was terrible the whole day. Well, the heavens opened up and, God shined down, and I hit this shot. It went through the sand trap up onto the green and rolled probably, 20 yards and just went in the hole. It was just a miraculous, there's no way I could ever duplicate that again if I played every day for the rest of my life. And so we all were jumping up and down, excited and laughing, and I hurt my heel jumping up and down. So I didn't know whether it was fractured or an Achilles torn. And it's only now, I can still feel it, but it's much better.
Not so the celebration injury.
It's been months. Yeah. So I celebrate. That just goes to show you when you're getting old.
You got to stretch, man.
I'm a granddad now, so I got to be careful. Yeah, I got to stretch to celebrate.
That's one of the hardest things to remember is like getting out there trying to swing like I used to. And I'm 30. I'll be 34 next month. Get out there and swing a little bit, and I'm like, that hurts. You got to stretch now, man. Yeah. We have to stretch.
Yeah, you can't just like even most of my kids at the ages that they're at, they can just get out there, don't have to stretch. They can just start lifting, which I don't advise. I still, even when you're young, stretch, but they can get away with it. I have to have a fairly lengthy stretch routine before I'm doing anything athletic.
We have to break a sweat stretching first.
That's right.
And then we'll get into it for 5 minutes and then be done. So back to Florida State. You take the LSAT, which I hear people talk about all the time as like one of the most stressful parts of their life is studying for the LSAT, taking that.
LSAT and bar exam are two pretty stressful processes, that's for sure.
I've heard a lot of people complain about it. My buddy Tyler just took his LSAT for the second time. He got a decent score on the first one, and he studied for like a year, man, to retake it, and then he did 2 points better.
It is really a challenging course. It's reading comprehension, but it's also logic puzzle, so it's not like factual based memorization. It's just testing kind of your ability, some of your abilities. But it's hard to study for, and it's a challenge. And I really walked out of it that day whenever I took it. I said, if I didn't do well enough on this test, I'm not. So kudos to your friend, because I walked out saying I'm not going to take it again. I did not like it that much. And Leanne and I were dating at the time, and I just said, I have Leanne. We're going to figure something else out. Maybe law school isn't the thing. Had I not done well on it.
Well, you see, I also have Leanne, and you didn't put this in there, but you graduated from FSU with high honors and in the top 10% of your class. So kudos to that. But talk to me about that. Like, how does that feel coming out of that?
So I have, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, I think, and one that I'm still working on getting better at. I have an ability, and I've said this before on various podcasts. I'm not super comfortable about talking about myself, but
I know. I reached out to Leanne for you.
So I have an ability to like laser focus on things, which can be a good thing because I think that, you know, if you work hard at something and you make good choices, you can be successful in a lot of things and achieve a lot of your goals. But you also can sacrifice a lot of other things. And so you have to be careful about that, what you're sacrificing. But in law school, you know, I got married right before law school. So, and then we had Isaac right before finals, my first year. And so we had to be just super focused on what we were doing. So Leanne worked, she was a nurse, and she worked 3/12s on the weekends, Friday night from 7 to 7, and then Saturday and Sunday night. And so I would watch Isaac, who was an infant at the time, and so I didn't really get a chance to study a lot on the weekends. It was mostly just trying to make it over the weekends until I was probably the only, and this may sound bad. It wasn't because I didn't like to hang out with Isaac and our baby, but it's exhausting when you're 3 days with a you know, a kid that's under 1 year old, and you know you're getting up in the middle of the night making bottles. But I was probably the only one in law school that was saying, "Oh, thank God it's Monday," and I'm going to law school and working at a job, and but that was our life. And she would come home Monday morning, and at 7:00, and I would leave and go to law school. And she, you know, she's very tough. She's one of the most organized, capable people I've ever been around. You know, she would try to catch a little nap before Isaac woke up. Sometimes she did, sometimes she didn't. So she was coming off 3/12s, and then watching an infant on Monday morning. So it was a struggle, but I found the key to law school, and I tell this to kids that are going to law school, is, and it sounds simple, but not a lot of people I think do it, but go to class. Don't miss class. Take good notes in class. You know, now that you have laptops in class, I'd look around and you would have people it was before social media, but they would have the news up. They would have Spider Solitaire up. They'd have, you know, while the professor's up there teaching. And, you know, so I just stopped bringing my laptop because it was a distraction. So I just write handwritten notes. And so go to class, take good notes, because the teachers are going to talk about what they're going to test about. They're going to talk about what they're interested in. And then, you know, you only have one test generally at the end of the year, one final. And so, you know, instead of waiting till the end of the semester, which most people did, to create your outline to study all of that semester's worth of material, immediately start making your outline based on what you read in the course materials and what you took, the notes you took in class. And if you did that and continued to hone the outline throughout the semester, I found that, you know, your outline might be 50 pages, but it would be done. And then while everybody's making their outline or trying to take somebody else's outline from the prior semester, I would have my outline done, and then I could just memorize it. And that worked well for me. And our days were, like I said, I would go to school and treat it as a job. I'd finish classes, go to the library, finish around 5:00, go home and eat dinner with Leanne and Isaac. And then at night, after they were getting ready for bed, I would go back into our little makeshift office. It was really a hallway, and Leanne got me a little skinny desk and with no AC in it. And I would just work for another couple of hours, go to sleep about 10:00, and then wake up the next day and do it all over again. And did that for about 3 years. So it worked out well. Got a good job coming out of law school because of that. And, but it was a lot of work. And, you know, but it also, I think going back to football helped out a lot because, you know, at Duke, you were doing class and doing football. And, you know, in law school, I didn't have anybody yelling at me. I could go get water whenever I wanted. It was, you know, in an air-conditioned environment. And so it was a situation where, compared to the challenges of playing football the last 10 years and having to do school, it was in some ways easier.
Yeah. I bet it was hard to balance that though. Like just trying to figure everything out. Like, would you say that's maybe what strengthened you and Leanne, like got you guys ready for the rest of your lives? Because I'm trying to think of that schedule. I'm like, well, so she's exhausted by the time you guys actually get to spend time together. And then by the time that she's rested up enough to do it, she's got to go right back to work. And then you're, of course, working through high stress environment. You're focusing on the thing that's going to set you guys for the rest of your life. That's going to set the life for you guys, your kids, and now your grandkids. You got to take that seriously. So the balance, that's got to be hard to figure out.
Yeah, it made us really appreciate once we were done with law school and had and I had a job and she was able to stop working and stay at home. We basically agreed that we would not have another child until I passed the bar exam. So Leanne, I guess we had confidence in my ability to pass it the first time. So I passed the bar exam in August, I think, or took the bar exam in August, and then in October, I think Riley was born. So thankfully I passed it.
Hard deadline.
That's right. And so, but it made us appreciate, I think, having the time that we did after law school where she didn't have to work. And now the problem is when I talked about laser focus, and the job that I got was a really good job, really good firm, but it was one of those things where wound up working some nights, wound up working some weekends, and I tried to over time have gotten better at that, where I'm trying to balance, because you can say, my priorities are my faith, my wife, and then my children, and then everything else falls under that. But, I think we can, men especially feel like, I'm supposed to be the provider. I'm supposed to be doing this, and put pressure on ourselves to achieve at a high level. And ambition isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it needs to be under control. And so that's something that I've struggled with over the course of my career, is because law, you can do it. It's not you clock in at 8 and leave at 5. You can do it. There's always work to be done. And so you have to have the discipline to say, okay, I'm going to stop and I'm going to give attention to my family. And also I'm going to, whenever I'm home, I'm going to try to make my brain where my feet are and not be thinking about work.
Yeah, that's tough.
Whenever I'm at home. So it's something that I think we're all evolving over time. And those are some things that I've really been working on as a professional and as an adult.
It's heavy, man. And that was actually going to be my next question. So I'm glad you went into that already. Yep. Was just because you had mentioned in the questionnaire that was one of your goals, was like, you feel like you've reached your goal really as an attorney. Now your goal is to just be more present at home. And I think that's admirable.
Yeah. Well, so I still have goals. I still am ambitious as a lawyer. I still want to be a great lawyer and great trial lawyer and have good outcomes for my clients and that sort of thing, but not at the sacrifice of everything else.
Right.
And so trying to find that balance is always, I don't know that you're ever going to get it right, but, and I think it also, there's a saying, and I'm going to butcher it, but before you're 40, you're thinking about your resume. After you're 40, you're thinking about your obituary. And
Jeez.
So,
I'm so close.
And I think the meaning of the way I take that is you start thinking about your legacy.
Right.
And you start thinking about, hey, I'm a granddad now. And, my children are growing up, and you see, Isaac and Riley have graduated high school, and Isaac's graduated and is an RN now. And time is going by really quickly. And so you want to appreciate the time when they're young. You want to appreciate, and you want to be present for that. It's another way of saying it is love is spelled Time. And you want to be able to make sure you make that time with your children, because just like, football careers can be over quickly. When kids are young, you feel like it's never going to be over. The days are long and the years are short. And but then all of a sudden you turn around and you're like, wow, you have them graduating high school, graduating college. And so you want to try to enjoy that and savor that as much as you possibly can.
One thing, I was talking to Rachel last night. Our oldest got in bed with us, and we didn't fight it. He's a big boy. You saw him when you walked in.
Yeah.
He's tall, man. He takes up a lot of the room.
He takes after daddy.
Yeah. Don't know who he got that from. But we were talking about how the second kid, like as soon as we had Ezra, we missed so much of Carson, and not necessarily physically missed, but like we took all those moments for granted. So it's like, all right, we got to lock in and make sure that we embrace these moments with Ezra, because they're few and far between, right? And
Absolutely.
Then you look at Ezra's fixing to be 4 years old in August or October, and you look at Carson and you're like, oh my God. Like, so you go through, you don't want to miss the things that you may have taken for granted with your first child. And then by the time you realize that, like, you're going through that, you look at your first child again and you're like, holy cow, this is almost done.
Yeah.
And man, that is that's been a tough realization to come to.
Yeah. Yeah. And whenever I talk to young parents, or even like I've had the blessing of being able to talk to some football teams, it's hard. Raising young children is hard. Playing football, there are times where it is incredibly difficult. You're going to have failures. You're going to have adversity in both of those contexts, but try to savor the process and not looking at just the final end goal is something that I try to work on, because that's not my nature. My nature is, okay, that's the goal, and what do I have to achieve it? And, just really grinding to that goal. And I think it helped me with, becoming the football player that I was, because I wasn't naturally, the greatest athlete in the world, or and helped me become a good lawyer and do well in law school. But again, there's more important things than just you. I think it's, as an adult, you can't just focus on one thing. And talking to football players, it's, enjoy this time, or any young athlete or any young student, enjoy this time. I know they complain about school and complain about practice, but there are very few times that you're going to be around all of your brothers, and I mean that in like a football program type situation, where you're going to be around all of those guys. Whenever everybody graduates, they're going to be a few guys you're able to keep in touch with, but everybody else is going to scatter. And so try to enjoy those moments as much as you can, because I know it's difficult, but and there's a little bit too. I think the youth is wasted on the young, and they don't have the context to understand that.
Yeah.
But I think you still can give them the message and hope that they take it to heart.
Absolutely. So there was something else I wanted to go into here, but I think this is okay. So Walborski, Bradley, and Fleming. Oh, obviously it was just Walborski.
Yeah.
When did you you start there? No, the GOAT.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask about the name, right?
Yeah. So I remember being in high school and growing up in Bay County and seeing his billboards all around town. And so I started practicing in Tallahassee, a good firm, Osley McMullen. Really enjoyed it, but kind of along Leanne's father, who I was close with, worked out at the mill and passed away from being exposed to asbestos out at the mill. And so he passed away early. And I was close to him, and that really hit home. And I've always been a family being important, and I didn't want to, even though the job was really good, I really liked who I was working with. I was working with a former Florida Supreme Court justice. I worked with guys that later on became general counsel to Governor Christ and general counsel to Rick Scott. And so it was just really a great opportunity professionally, but I didn't want to live somewhere just for my job. And Leanne was from Bay County. Most of her family's from Bay County, the same with my family. And so we made the decision to move back here. Got a job with a good law firm, Harrison Sell McCloy. Great experience, great mentors, and people like Ross McCloy and guys like Franklin Harrison, Doug Sale, guys that just were icons in the legal community in Bay County. And so did defense work. So represented insurance carriers, represented the school district whenever the school district was sued, enjoyed that work. And we continued to have children, and just got an opportunity to go work on the plaintiff side doing personal injury work, which I did defense. So I defended personal injury claims. I defended employment claims. But this gave me an opportunity to go on the other side with Perry and Young, who's one of our competitors now. I still have a good relationship with those guys, with Chris Young and Larry Perry and some of the lawyers over there. And then was approached after a couple of years there by Brent Bradley, who's Walborski Bradley. And he, talked to me about some opportunities there to be a partner. And so for various reasons, it was kind of an opportunity I couldn't refuse. It was nothing, no bad blood I had with, whenever I left Harrison Sale, there was no bad blood there. I still have good relationships with those lawyers, no bad blood at Perry and Young, but it was a situation where I'd litigated against Ed Walborski and Brent Bradley whenever I was on the defense side, thought highly of them as trial lawyers, and just it gave me some upward mobility in that firm. And so made the decision to make that transition, and it's been a good one. I have some autonomy there to kind of handle cases that I want to handle, to help have decision-making authority in that firm kind of about what we're going to do and where we're going with that firm. And so it was, and again, it wasn't an insignificant issue to be able to work with guys that I'd tried cases against and thought highly of as lawyers. I think it'd be hard-pressed to find a lawyer. Civil litigation is a little bit different from criminal in that there are a lot of criminal cases that go to trial. Civil litigation, a lot of those cases resolve short of trial, but we still try cases. I'd be hard-pressed to find a lawyer in the Panhandle that's tried more cases than Ed Walborski. And so to be able to have him right down the hallway, talk to him about, hey, what do you think about this issue whenever a legal issue comes up, or brainstorm strategy, was just really a good opportunity. And he's still going strong. He's still working hard. Brent Bradley's in our Pensacola office with some lawyers. I'm over in the Panama City office with several lawyers, including Cliff Higbee and Kevin Barr, two really good lawyers as well. So very happy with where we are as a law firm.
So talk to me about, so you said you grew up with the billboards for Ed.
Yeah.
You get in front of him for the first time did you have to interview? Did you have to, you were stepping into his firm, so did you have to meet with him first, or did Mr. Bradley just bring you right in? Did you kind of come in and hit the ground running?
Yeah, so it's funny. My experience with Ed, we had a good relationship as an adversarial counsel, opposing counsel, although I do remember a mediation where he can get fired up, which is a good thing. You have to have a lot of tools in your toolbox, so to speak. And he is one that he's very passionate, a good advocate for his clients. And I remember one mediation where he was yelling at me from across the table at mediation, but to his credit, I think he was wrong about the issue and came in and apologized later about it. But no, we had a good relationship, and he actually gets on to me because Brent approached me, and Ed said that he had been trying to talk to me about the transition for a while, and then Brent talks to me and I make the transition. So Ed gives me a hard time about that. But the first couple of conversations were with Brent coming on board, because I was kind of viewed as the guy that would step into Ed's shoes eventually, because, Ed's still going strong and I've been there for 10 years, but, Brent and I are closer to the same age. And so it was going to be a situation where Brent and I were together a lot longer than me and Ed and Brent. And so, when Ed steps away, nobody knows. Like I said, he's still extremely effective, does a great job, great advocate. But the first conversations were with Brent, and then Ed was kind of looped in those conversations, kind of as the final, not the closing, but the final, answering any additional questions, making sure everybody was comfortable before I made the move. So, but he's, Ed, he's a very, like I said, tenacious advocate, but he's also very generous, self-deprecating, great sense of humor, just really somebody that, I'm fortunate to have seen sides of him that I don't think everybody sees. So
the kind of guy, I mean, you're at his firm, right, at the end of the day,
yep.
But you feel like you work with him, not for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. He is not, there are some law firms that if, a certain case came in, the guy that built the firm, which Ed has undoubtedly done, could say, I'm going to pick this case, I'm going to pick that case, I'm going to handle these. And he does not do that. He handles big cases, he handles small cases or smaller cases, he handles everything in between, and he doesn't try to pull rank on anybody. Now, his opinion, because he's been there, done that, and seen a lot, and has obviously good business instincts for what he's built, his opinions carry great weight, but he still is one vote out of three when we as a partnership are making decisions, and he doesn't try to say this is going to be the way it is and dictate things. Now, he does say, I feel strongly about this, and that's important in our decision-making process, but he doesn't try to he isn't a dictator, to his credit.
When somebody doesn't throw their rank around, it makes you want to follow them even more. And when they do, not necessarily throw it out there, but when they do say something like that, I feel very strongly about this, it carries more weight when it does happen. I have had and obviously being in the military, you find people like that a lot. People that are I'm your platoon sergeant, and then the guy that's he never talks about it. So when he does tell you to do something, it's all right, I got you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So he's a really good law partner.
Trial lawyer, you said that a few times. What's the differentiator between that and maybe some of the other areas? Maybe I'm ignorant to it. So, but trial lawyer seems like a very distinct tag.
It is. So you can do a lot of stuff with a law degree. You can be a lobbyist to politicians. You can do estate planning where you're writing up estate documents like wills and trusts. You can be a contract lawyer where you're drafting contracts for businesses. You can do business organization lawyer where you're drafting documents to create LLCs or corporate entities. And you can be a real estate lawyer where you're doing real estate deals. So there's all sorts of things that you can specialize in once you become a lawyer. And some are generalists, although generalists aren't as frequent as they probably once were, where you dabble in a lot of different things. When you do that, sometimes legal malpractice can follow. And so you tend to want to specialize. And so trial lawyers, and even within trial lawyers, there's specialties. So we specialize in personal injury, medical malpractice. We have a workers' comp division. And so that is somebody that is going to go into a trial and advocate in front of a judge if it's a bench trial, or a jury. Most of ours are jury trials, and so you advocate in front of a jury with an opposing counsel present. And you, like I said, there are a lot of trial lawyers that do criminal defense work. And then there are trial lawyers that are, I don't know what you would call them, but commercial trial lawyers where businesses are suing one another, and they do commercial trial work. So that's just somebody that basically is going to be in front of a jury or a judge generally.
Okay. So got it. Okay. It makes a little bit more sense now. Just I never thought of the people that write the wills and everything. Like it's the same process essentially. Like could that person step into your world or vice versa very easily, or would there be a whole process into that?
They can step into our world. It would not be very easily
Very
if they
easily.
don't have a lot
Gotcha.
of experience. So, sometimes they have to do that when there's probate disputes and there's disputes between like heirs to a will or something like that. But it is not for everybody. It can be intimidating to get in front of a jury, and there aren't many jobs where you're trying to do your job and at the same time somebody else is trying to undermine you. And so it can be a stressful, time-consuming job. So it's not something that I think if you don't do it, I don't think very many people feel comfortable having to step into that role.
Fair enough. That's an excellent way to answer that. Well, as we come up to a wrap here, there was one that I asked you about before we went on. I wanted to make sure you were okay with me asking this. I want to ask you about two cases. I want the first one to be the one that you wish you could have a second go at, perhaps, and then the second one to be like maybe not necessarily maybe your swan song to this point. And obviously, you can't go into like grave detail, but what can you tell me about those?
So I've had a lot of success in front of juries. One, though, that Ed and I tried, anytime you go in front of a jury, there's a chance you're going to lose, and every trial lawyer suffers a loss. But Ed and I tried a case, and we thought it was a good case. We thought it was a case that the jury, that our client, that was just, and that she deserved an award. She had been in a crash and suffered injuries, had to have treatment. And, the opposing counsel brought in a doctor that, said maybe it wasn't as significant as we were advocating for and that our doctors were saying. And ultimately the jury believed their side of things. And so, we didn't come out with a victory, which is disappointing because while we have lots of cases and we're going to have other opportunities to try cases, that's our client's one opportunity for justice. It's the their forever case. And so, though dealing with the disappointment, not just of the loss, but the disappointment for the client that you've been dealing with for years, it can be challenging. And you have to, I think an apt comparison, you and I talk about sports a lot. It's, makes me think of coaches. Coaches, as good as many coaches are, I'm sure they have those losses that they think about and sometimes think about at night and decisions that they could have done differently. So that would be one that immediately comes to mind where I don't know that we could have done anything differently, but is disappointing because you wish for that client that it could have been different. One that that stands out to me, and it was in the newspaper, so I'm not divulging anything. Well, two actually. One was being involved as a relatively young lawyer in the Girls Gone Wild Joe Francis litigation. I was involved in those cases that were here whenever he came down and filmed girls he should not have filmed, or his people did. And so we pursued that on behalf of those families. And it was tumultuous. Everything was a battle. He was about as difficult a defendant. He and his companies were sued, and it was a very challenging litigation, very time-consuming. Some of the clients got good relief from that, which is we were very pleased with, and then the other one was we represented the school board, and again this was with a different firm, but represented the school board. There was a controversy about the superintendent wanted to move a particular principal that had been successful at a high school, and the school board said no. We're not going to allow you to do that. You're going to keep them at this school, which is not typically how things go. It's usually the superintendent has the discretion to move them. And lawsuits were filed, and we actually won at the trial court level, which was a groundbreaking case for that particular area of the law, school law. And so that's one that stands out to me. Now, on appeal, we lost. The first DCA said, no, that's not the way it works. But it stands out because it was a very surprising, shocking outcome for us. And I thought that part of that was because of the advocacy on our side in the legal work that we did.
Is it hard not to get emotionally involved?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons why trial lawyers want to do focus groups, because we can sometimes get so locked in and so emotionally involved in our cases that it's sometimes good to get another opinion. And so a focus group is basically just a mock jury that you give certain information, and then you do like an opening statement or a closing argument, or maybe some witnesses, and you then listen to them debate, because a real jury, you don't get to listen to them debate. They go behind closed doors, and what they debate, you don't get to hear. You don't get to see how the sausage is made. And so it's like you present your case to jurors that, you pay to come in from the community, and then you get to listen to them. What issues are they bringing up? What issues resonate? What issues don't? And so you want to do stuff like that to see, am I actually missing the forest for the trees? So you definitely can get really emotionally invested in it. I try to stay objective and with the pros and cons of any client's case, but you certainly can.
One thing we appreciated when we had you was just honesty. And I tell this story all the time is there came a certain point in our case where it was just like, you got to throw your hands up. Like this guy's not worth anything. It's not even worth pursuing. And I always tell that story because you were very honest with us about it. And I always look back and I say, like, I don't have to regret that, because obviously I had a relationship with you, and he wouldn't have, he's not going to lie to me about that kind of thing. But it just felt like you weren't necessarily maybe emotionally involved, but you definitely wanted us to come out of it better, and fighting that kind of thing for a prolonged amount of time for maybe no different result was going to just be more mentally taxing than anything.
Yeah. And I have to be careful because we have attorney-client privilege. So
sorry.
No. You can talk about whatever you want,
of course,
but I can't. I have to be limited in what I talk about.
Fair enough. Okay.
But yeah, we have to have a lot of conversations with clients about, and again, not talking about your case, but just in general, here's the insurance coverage that's available. And, we can look into things like assets of the at-fault party. A lot of times there's not stuff there to pursue. And if you go get a judgment, it's a piece of paper unless there's assets there. And so, that's, I encourage all my clients, to the extent that they are able to get, coverage, uninsured motorist coverage, because a lot of times people are driving around and it's legal in Florida not to have bodily injury coverage, which covers injured people for that person's negligence. So it can be, and that's one of the more disappointing conversations to have with somebody, is if there's just not anything there. In the criminal context, somebody does a crime, they can be sentenced, and there's a judgment there. There's justice done. In the civil context, we take the level of harm suffered and try to equate it with monetary damages. And if there's no money, that can be, or limited money, that can be frustrating.
Yeah, I'm a public adjuster, and learning about policies and how they're structured and everything. It's obviously not the same kind of work, but it, in a sense, is, because you're reading policies, you're looking at coverage amounts and everything.
Absolutely.
Having to tell somebody that, like, hey, this isn't covered, that's a hard conversation to have where you turn around. And in our case, like, actually just today I had to call. It's ironic that I'm asking about getting emotionally involved, but because this lady's like one of the sweetest people. Like, if I was ranking my clients, she's at the top. Yeah. And I had to call her today, and I was like, when they wrote your policy, they left out this certain fact, like, you don't have coverage for this. There's nothing we can do about this. And it's a hard conversation to have. So I can
absolutely,
I can somewhat, obviously not to the degree that you deal with it every day, but I can somewhat relate to that.
Yeah, and
that
to try to balkanize that and say, okay, I'm going to leave that at work, and I'm not going to bring that home. Is something that I think we all struggle with in some form or fashion.
You carry the weight, and I mean, to a certain degree, maybe it's kind of healthy because you care about what you're doing, which you have to in order to be good at it. But you have to be able to draw that line, and I'm learning. Like, that's one of the reasons I ask guys like you, like, how long it took you to get that ability to disconnect, to just turn, maybe even turn this off for a minute, like that left side of the brain, that's the working side, and just turn on the memory side of the brain. Like, try to make memories at home, be active there, because man, we'll be sitting watching a movie, and I'll catch myself, like, I'm scrolling and replying to emails. I'm like, man, they're going to be there tomorrow, man.
Yeah, I was just about to say, one thing that I think is important is going into your room, putting your phone down on your dresser face down, and not touching it.
Face down always.
Yeah, until maybe, right before bed, check it or something. But again, just to make sure there's no emergencies. But again, I think that we as a society right now, spend way too much time around people that we care about, everybody looking at their phones. And that, to me, like, Father's Day is coming up. I don't like phones. And so my kids know Sunday afternoon after church, it's going to be, when I get, my choice of whatever I want to do, it's going to be, we're going to sit around. We're going to not have phones. The TV's not going to be on. We're going to be in the living room, and we're going to be playing some board game or something, to where we all just get to sit around and visit and talk and enjoy being around one another. So
it's awesome. Well, happy Father's Day, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, man. Happy Father's Day to you too.
And happy Father's Day to all the dads that are at home watching. We hope that you're on your screen for this, at least. All right, so we got two things that we do at the close of each one of these. The first one is I want to give you an opportunity to shout out any supporters or anything that you want to. If you want to give the information for Wildborsky Bradley Fleming, if you're into that kind of thing, you can. But if you don't want to use it for that, this anybody you want to make sure you shout out right here.
Oh, goodness. Well, so first and foremost, I mean, I think people see enough Wildborsky Bradley and Fleming ads.
They know.
And
they know.
Billboards.
I know the
number. And commercials and stuff, which I appreciate getting. We usually get positive feedback about that, which is very kind of people. But, certainly my wife, she is, like I said, the most competent person I know, which can sometimes be challenging, because when she's as competent as she is and I'm not, then it's she has to be very patient with me sometimes. I'm not the handiest of people. But her support over the years, I would certainly not be where I was in law school or in the practice of law, or as a man or as a husband or as a father, without her continuing to challenge me, and she helps keep me humble. That's for sure. And
she'll do it, man. She's a firecracker.
She is, and her, but she keeps the house running. Laundry, food, groceries, which is a lot groceries wise in our house, and just and a million other things.
While running a football program, essentially, by the way,
absolutely, while running a football program and helping babysit a grandbaby. So which she loves, we love. But yeah, really, Mosley football, it's crazy. It's maybe not quite a full-time job, but she spends a ton of time doing that. All afternoon she was dealing with Mosley football, which is kind of a labor of love. She does enjoy the boys. And that was one thing. She did the same thing at North Bay when our older kid played there and was very good at it. And she was not, her brothers played football, but she was not like this big football person that she is now. But she saw what the boys got out of it from being in a program like that, being in a football program, and toughness and work ethic and helping them grow up. And so she's all in about that now. So Leanne is, my biggest supporter, and there's no way I could be where I was without her. All of our babies, they're my inspiration to be, a better dad and leave them, or at least try to leave them in a world that's better than what we grew up in. And certainly my parents as well, just again laying the foundation for me to have an opportunity to be successful, because I knew they were going to be home. I knew that I was going to have food on the table, that I was going to have clothes on my back, and if I had to be picked up somewhere, they were going to be there. So those are the ones that immediately come to mind. And by listing people, I know I'm going to leave out people and that deserve to be mentioned. I'm very close with my brothers, Ryan and Reed. They were always guys that we competed against one another. We fought sometimes like cats and dogs, but we also, nobody could mess with us that, from the outside, and we always were pulling for one another to be successful. So, those are the ones that immediately all come to mind.
We fight each other. You don't fight us.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We can talk about or get on to one another or fight one another, but nobody else can. So
of course, in the episode with the same thing we end every week with, and I feel like you probably went into a lot of this right there, but gratitude, big part of my life. We spend so much time wrapped into things that we don't have, that we don't spend enough time being gracious for the things that we do. So, Robert, we'll end this episode with 3 things that you're grateful for in your life right now.
Oh, man. I wonder if I should do, rather than just repeat myself, because obviously Leanne, the kids.
Yeah, I feel like I alley-ooped you a little bit too. Like maybe I intertwined those. This is a work in progress. I'm trying to structure this a little bit.
It's not being critical at all. I'm just wondering, so I'll putting those things aside, let's say 3 other things. So,
yeah, you're to the side, Leanne.
No, you're getting me in trouble. Come on. So one thing I would say is going to Rutherford High School at the time that I did, because I had a great football coach that had just turned around, and a great football staff, which I think compares. I didn't think I'd ever see a football staff as good as that football staff that I got to play for. And I think Mosley is right there, if not exceeding it. They have an incredible staff right now that I think very highly of. So going to Rutherford at a time where you talk to the people that were there at the time, it was like, and including teachers, administrators, it was kind of viewed as the golden era of Rutherford High School. So I would say that, number one, to have being able to go to Florida State College of Law, because there were just a lot of good legal opportunities in Tallahassee, being the state capital. That really set me up nicely for a good football career, and really and truly what I should have started with, and regretfully I didn't. Again, besides the family stuff, is my faith, because I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. I love that that I have the opportunity to have a relationship with him, even though I'm a flawed sinner. And that, all too often we think we have everything under control, and we want to control and just like white knuckle and everything and be like, I'm going to take care. And as soon as I think that, I usually fall straight on my face. And so, knowing that, I don't have to be in control because I make a terrible God, and that I can rely upon him and be, if I'm obedient to his word, that, at the end of the day, things are going to be fine. Those are some of the things beyond family that I'm grateful for in my family, because again, I think we all worship something. Even people that say they don't believe in God or Jesus or whatever, they're worshiping something. It's money, power, ambition, sex, control. Everybody worships something. I found that the only thing worth worshiping is my faith in Jesus. So the other stuff is going to fail you. So I'm very thankful for all of those things, and certainly my family.
It's a soothing feeling. It really is. Do you have a favorite Bible verse off the top of your head? I know I kind of hit you, blindsided you with that one, but
Romans, in this life there will be trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world, is one that, because there's no perfect life. I know with social media, we see what people put on the outside, what people put for that's public facing, but there's no perfect life. There's no trouble-free life. There's no life that's, I've got it all figured out and it's going to be smooth sailing. That's just not the case. But knowing that, through the darkest valley, that he's going to be there, that, that is something that is reassuring in a huge way.
Amen. Can't disagree with that at all, can you? It's a lot easier to go through life when you believe in something bigger than you, man.
There's no doubt.
Robert, I can't say thank you enough for being here tonight. I know we just talked about sacrifice and everything, and here I am keeping you till 8:45 at night.
No, hey, I've thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. I wish you nothing but the best with this podcast. I think it's a great endeavor. I think you're a good guy that's doing the right things, living life the right way. I can't wait to hear you again on Friday nights with Mosley Football, you and David back at it. And if you need anything from me, as always, just give me a call.
Absolutely. Robert Fleming, ladies and gentlemen. Want to let you guys know, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow us everywhere. Danny's Aquatic Adventures, she's got stuff coming out every week. Drew's got some stuff coming up. This, of course, my side project, the main honcho here, Leave It at the Table. We're live every Thursday night, 7 o'clock. 90% of Thursday nights. Most Thursday nights we're live, so come check us out. Just come sit down. We always say our podcast is beautiful because it's about everything, but it's about nothing. Last week we just sat here and vented about Danny switching jobs. This week we're doing Irrational Fears. There's no boundaries on it, man. We just come in here and we have a great time. So I invite you guys to check us out there. And once again, man up. Men's Mental Health Awareness Month meetup coming up here Saturday, June 27th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Palo Alto Church of Christ. We're not promoting this as a Christian event. However, as we just talked about with Robert here a few minutes ago, a lot of people get through their struggles by having faith in Christ, so I can't tell you that it's not going to come up, but we want everybody to feel safe attending. One thing that I mentioned in the post, and I want to make sure I say this here, even if you're strong, because you might have the experience, the resources, or just the ability to help somebody that's not doing so well right now. So we invite everybody to come out, just have a good time. We hope to see you there, and we hope that we can help somebody, at least one person that night. Thank you guys once again for watching, and we will see you next time.